Okay, so we're still going through these prison calls from Gypsy Rose Blanchard, these newly released prison calls. These calls are disgusting and so full of lies. If anybody can watch these, listen to these, and not see Gypsy for the true monster that she is, and the pathological liar that she is, I don't know what to say. So this call is from August 2nd, 2016. It is part 2 to the call. She is talking to Michelle Dean from this BuzzFeed, wrote this article on BuzzFeed. Okay, now I discussed part 1 in my video yesterday, so if you didn't see that, check that out. So, Gypsy is basically had just gotten done talking about how she had run away with Dan, and the whole lie. Dee Dee brought her back and chained her with a dog leash to the bed, and all that nonsense that nobody believes. And Gypsy says during these times she likes to call these. She called these the bad times. That's when Dee Dee was slapping her and verbally abusing her. I don't believe it for a minute. I don't believe it for a minute. A mother that was so passionate about trying to find out what was wrong with her daughter isn't not going to be slapping her around. I don't get it. This Michelle asked Gypsy, like when she was getting all this stuff, trips, the Habitat for Humanity house, etc., if she ever felt like she was deceiving people. And Gypsy said no, she never felt like she was deceiving people. But Gypsy admits that she knew she could walk. And she keeps insisting she wasn't sick. But you knew you could walk, but you don't feel like you were deceiving people? See, a lie. She knew she was deceiving people. She knew she could walk. But yet she continued to sit her ass in that wheelchair. But yet she didn't feel like she was deceiving anybody. That doesn't even make sense. And then she talks about, like when she got arrested, she thought she was 19. Another lie. When she ran off to be with Dan Glidewell, she had the binder with her that had her ID and her Medicaid information with her real date of birth. And she even, when the detective was interrogating her, she even explained to the detective, that, she kind of thought she was 19, but she was really born in this year, not this year. Why is she? See what I mean? She's just telling this lady all these lies. And then, then this Michelle Dean's going to write this, article being all on Gypsy's site, and it's all lies. All lies. Then, this is something we never heard before. I found this really interesting. Gypsy says, that Dee Dee went for a mammogram about a week before the crime, and that those results came back abnormal. We never have heard, at least I've never heard this before, and I've been digging deep in this for 2 years now. I never heard this. And I don't remember anything in the autopsy report saying anything about it. But we do know, which is another discussing, we know that Dee Dee was sick. She had diabetes, she had that bad foot, and that leg from the bad car accident, that I don't even think that ever really healed properly from the bad car accident. She had surgery, pins and screws, plates, all that in her ankle or her foot. And she was obese. And she was just not in good health. Her health was really starting to fail her. But Gypsy couldn't just walk out in the middle of the night when Nick came. No. They had to come. She had to have him commit this crime instead of just walking away. There's no way Dee Dee could have chased after her or anything. And then she goes on. Then she wants to talk about Dee Dee some more, and she says that Dee Dee was bipolar and had auditory schizophrenia. Now, I had heard Gypsy has tried to say before that Dee Dee was bipolar. Whether she was or she wasn't, I don't know. But we've never heard about a Dee Dee having audio schizophrenia. She claims that Dee Dee was hearing these voices, and she would ask Gypsy did she hear that or whatever? And Gypsy would have to agree with her, or Dee Dee would be very upset with her. Nobody else has ever said anything about this. This is just stuff that Gypsy has made up to try to make her mother look like the villain, so she doesn't look like the monster that she is. And then, she's explaining to Michelle how Dee Dee didn't want Gypsy to have a relationship with Rod. More lies. We have seen the messages on the Facebook messages where Dee Dee was in constant communication with Rod, telling him, Gypsy did this, Gypsy did that, call Gypsy, tell Gypsy this, Gypsy's birthday's coming up, and trying to get Rod to take Gypsy on the family vacation with them, but he backed out on her. But Gypsy says Dee Dee didn't want her having my ass. Dee Dee, if it wasn't for Dee Dee constantly being on Rod's ass, he would have not been in Gypsy's life at all. He did not want to be in her life. Dee Dee was pretty much forcing him to do this, as she should. And then Michelle kind of asked Gypsy, why didn't she just, go to the police or anything? And Gypsy says, she was afraid to go to the police because of this paper that says she was incompetent. What? There was never a paper saying Gypsy was incompetent. Gypsy was even getting disability. As far as I know, she didn't have no payee. I think that perhaps Dee Dee may have had like a power of attorney, like if Gypsy became ill, something like that, but not just she didn't have like guardianship over Gypsy or anything. If she would have went to the police and said this and this is going on, Dee Dee could not have forced her to come back home because she didn't have guardianship over her. Gypsy was never declared incompetent. Another lie. And then she talks about the 4 days she spent with Nick after the crime. She says about these fits that Nick would have, and that Nick has anger problems, and he was very controlling and manipulative. A lie. We have seen the videos between Gypsy and Nick. Nick was always so kind and sweet to her, always trying to make sure she was happy. He never was controlling, never tried to tell her what to do or anything of the sort. I don't think we ever even seen him get angry. Then she says this. Nick had told her that he would take her out, end her, if she turned against him. A lie. Because we see in Nick's interrogation video, the lady, I can't remember her name, the lady detective, Nick tries to lie. And she says, Gypsy told us everything. So Nick comes out with the truth. There was not even a look of anger on his face. Right then, if he had been told her all this, we would have seen the anger right then. But there was no anger. He thinks at that point he thought Gypsy told everything. And there was no anger, no nothing. She did all the lies. She wants to make everybody look bad except for herself. And then she talks about when she met Nick in the movie theater when he came from Wisconsin the first time. When she's wearing the Cinderella outfit and her and Nick supposedly go to the bathroom and whatnot. And she talks about how much Dee Dee was jealous because Gypsy was spending time with Nick. And she claims that Dee Dee cussed Nick out and one time on the phone, and she never liked Nick. A lie. There was an article somewhere where Dee Dee says, and Gypsy's talking to this young man, and she says he's very sweet. Dee Dee had no problem with Nick. And then Gypsy also tries to say that Nick would always tell her mom didn't love her. Nobody loved her but him. No, Nick even said how guilty he felt afterwards because he found out what a good mother Dee Dee was. He never told Gypsy that Dee Dee didn't love her. See what I mean? All the lies. Lie after lie after lie after lie. So that's about all the lies I could dig up in this call. I'll have another call for you tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts.